Hey everybody, LadyLibertyStacker here. It is Wednesday, November 15th, 2017, and I'm back today with a tutorial video on the things to be on the lookout for when you're trying to hunt down vintage cast iron. People left a few comments on the videos as to what things may be worth and what should I pay for this, or that kind of thing. And I got to thinking about all the places where you can get cast iron. I also got to thinking about why are you buying it. These things make a big difference on where you go, how much you pay, do you walk away or not, and the things to be aware of when testing for your cast iron to see if it is the quality that you want. First off, why are you buying it? Are you buying it just because you want to collect it and display it? Are you buying it because you collect it and use it? Are you buying it just because you don't care about collecting it, you just want a good old fashioned vintage pan to cook in because maybe they're lighter than the modern Lodge? Or are you going to flip them? Are you going to restore them and sell them on, Etsy or Craigslist or whatever? Okay? There's different reasons. I'm kind of a combination of all. I like to cook in them. I also like to collect them. I'm now trying to collect one of each of the Griswolds. And believe it or not, some are more common than others, and that's another thing to be aware of when you're trying to hunt for vintage cast iron. This number 10 here that I got recently in an antique mall, you're looking at this pan here that I recently picked up for a real good deal. This one here is extremely rare, and in this form here could probably fetch $200 plus on eBay, and just because of the condition. I'll get into how I got that and what I look for at an antique mall in a little bit. But number 10s are very rare, but you'll see number 9s are rare. Anything larger than a 10 is very rare. You don't see it. The larger, generally, the more valuable. Okay? The smaller ones like this is a number 3, you see them everywhere. I mean, if you're going to see a cast iron skillet at an antique mall or an antique store or a estate sale, you're going to probably run into a number 3. Not always, but they're very, very, very common. Number 5 is also a very common skillet. This one here, it's hard to see the number. It had, I probably didn't strip it as well as I do now. That's when I first started collecting cast iron. This summer, the vintage cast iron, but number 5s are very common. What you don't see, number 2s are very rare. If you see one in decent condition, pick it up. 4s I don't see too often. I don't see that many 6s, but I'll see more 6s than 4s. Number 7s I don't see as often, and then 9 and 10 and on up. So the other kind of pan to be on the lookout for are meatloaf pans or bread pans, loaf pans. Sometimes you'll see a loaf pan with a handle on it. I don't have one to show you. If I did, I'd be real happy. But I'm going to keep an eye out for those. Those fetch in the hundreds on eBay. Waffle irons are very, very, very common. If I got one, it would just basically be for me to use on the cooktop here and get maybe a number 8. That would fit this burner here. And that's another thing. Sometimes the size doesn't necessarily mean how big it is. This one here is a number 10, and I didn't actually measure it, but it probably is 12 inches across. It is very similar to the modern Lodge. It's a large pan. They made the numbers to correspond with the numbers on wood stove cooktops, so you'd know if it would fit, as indicated here by this heat ring. That's why they came out with the size numbers. Doesn't necessarily mean the cooking surface inside is the same from pan to pan. 2 number 10s or 2 number 8s may not be exactly the same size, so it's something to be aware of. But anyway, know why you're collecting, know how common they are. If they're not that common and you can live with the condition and the price is good, you may want to pick it up. Because remember, if you're running around and spending gas and things and time, you just want to pick it up to save yourself money and time with gas, etc., and wear and tear in your car. So now how to test for them when you're at, you know, an antique store, antique mall, or whatever, you definitely want to have a credit card or a, you know, credit card like so. I just use this one because sometimes I stop by the Goodwill for thrifting and that kind of thing. But anyway, you can take your card and you can test the bottom to see if it sits flat. This one pretty much sits flat. And you want to do that also on the other side. I was lucky with this one. This is an unmarked 6.5-inch skillet, number H. It's a Wagner ware unmarked. And tested the back. Get the camera down so you can see. You do this on the inside and outside. And you also want to do the spin test. And you just push the handle. And it shouldn't go all the way around, so it pretty much sits flat. I got lucky. Sometimes when they're covered in rust, they could have a slight wobble, or they could be warped. Believe it or not, there's a lot of those kind of skillets out there, and I've walked away from them. Okay. Here is a number 5. I got it in an antique store. I paid maybe, for this one that was covered in rust, I probably paid $3-4 bucks, somewhere in there. For this one here, it's a number 5 marked Wagner ware. And I did the credit card test on it, and it worked out okay. I put that over the side. You know how to do that. This one here had a slight wobble to it. You really can't see. It's very, very, very slight. But one thing I did not do when I purchased this is the spin test. So you want to make sure you get it on a solid surface, a concrete or a wood floor or a tabletop that's not going to be damaged in the antique store, or a counter or somewhere like that. So you just push the handle, and if it spins all the way around, see how that one goes? That's almost 3 times there. But it still works for me, but I would never sell that. You know, collectors do not want that. And that's something that you want to try to avoid if at all possible. I didn't know that when I first got this pan, but you know, it doesn't really matter now because I use it for omelets. I use a number 5 for, this is a number 5. I use it for just things for myself, and you know, it works out great for me, and that's all I needed it for. I have another one, a Griswold, and it's a small logo, Griswold. It's maybe like this large across, but anyway, that's how I test for those. And then you want to test the inside. The other thing you want to do too is you want to see if it has any cracks or what have you. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a makeshift. I'm going to go ahead and do this now, and I'm going to show you how I do the ring test for my pan. So here we go. Here it is. Now I have the number 3. And you're going to hold it up like this, and you're going to do the knuckle test on the side of the pan. It should have a slight ring to it. And it's not going to have much of a ring because obviously it's small. The sound isn't going to travel very far. But it would sound like a thud or a dud if it's got like this. Maybe that even has a ring to it, but it's not going to have any ring to it if there is a crack somewhere. And if it's covered in rust, you want to make sure you do this. And you know, with garage sales, flea markets, barn sales, things like that, they could have a crack and you just won't see it under the carbonized seasoning or rust if it's rusty. Here's a number 5 and what it should sound like. See, the sound gets a little bit deeper. It's kind of like the wind chimes. You know, the bigger, the deeper the sound, but that one obviously has no cracks. And then, of course, you have a big skillet like this Griswold Erie. You can hear how that one is. So any of the silver stackers that may be watching this video right now, yep, there is a ring test for your cast iron. So at any rate, I just wanted to kind of show you that so you could see how that works. And now, a couple other quick tips about an antique mall. Antique mall is just basically a large area. It could be a large store in a department store size setting. It could be small. Antique mall could be 10,000 square foot. It could be 40,000 square feet. It could be 60,000 square feet. The trick to these is going to one that has space for a lot of vendors. My favorite one in my area has enough space for 200 plus vendors, when you get to a place like this, you almost always will find what you're looking for. Not always, but you have a lot. They have booths or cubicles that they rent out on a monthly basis. And if some people want to maybe dabble in antiques and vintage items, that kind of thing, we'll do that. Someday I may do that, who knows. But I'm not at the point now where I'm ready to do that. But you could come across a booth or what have you that has, you know, all kinds of vintage items or antique items, different array of things. Could be clothing, could be iron, cast iron pots and pans, could have glass, antique bottles. If they have a bunch of different things and there's a cast iron skillet in there, always check it, because they may not know the value of these things. And trust me, you'll start to know the value of these things, or even another area of antiquing that maybe you're going after, the milk bottles, whatever. There's signs, there's license plates, there's different things. You're going to know the value of these things after a while, and you're going to know what to look for. So anybody that has a booth with a bunch of things in it, they could have your item there, and it may be priced very, very competitively. This pan here can fetch $200 and up on eBay in really good condition. I paid $45 for it. And it was in good shape when I picked it up, but I always strip them and re-season them anyway. I just kind of like to know the history of the pan, and if I don't know the history, bye-bye seasoning. That's just me. But that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing you may see is two pans of the same size. I'm going to go ahead and show you on here. I'll be right back. Okay, we have two number 3s here. Number 3s, like I said, are very common. You can see them here. On the left is an unmarked Wagner. Number 3 on the right is a large logo Griswold. And they're both, they're not equally valuable. This one I paid $30 for. That one I got it rusty and bad condition. I paid about $3 or $4 for. But in Antique Mall I found 2 of these. An unmarked Wagner in average so-so condition. And I found a Griswold. It was in good condition, but they both needed reseasoning. This one was $30. This one was $40. Not these actual skillets. I'm just talking about that mall. So I ended up buying this one, and I left the other one there. $30 Griswold is a much better buy than an unmarked Wagner, and it was $40. So just things to be aware of when looking. Now, you may come across somebody that has nothing but skillets, and they're going to know the price of the skillets, and you're probably not going to be able to get a deal that way. If you live in an area where you don't see a whole lot of cast iron and you come across a fairly decent skillet, such as some areas of Texas and things like that, I sold some cast iron down there from my eBay store. But they don't have as many down there, so the prices are going to reflect that. Basically, it's demand and rarity and awareness is going to affect the price of anything, so it applies to cast iron as well. So again, know why you're collecting. If you want to be assured of better quality, an antique store, an antique mall is going to be the place to go. If you want to get a real steal, a garage sale, flea market, estate sale, or a barn sale, such as this. But you may have rust and you may have some pitting, and it doesn't affect the kettle as much, but it will on a skillet. Those are the pitfalls. You can get a great deal, but then you may have something you really don't want to cook on and nobody else wants to buy either. So anyway, video is long enough. I've tried a couple times to shorten this up, and I just can't with these tips. But if you like the video, give me a thumb up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please be sure to hit the bell, though, even if you are subbed to my channel, so you can get all my recent video uploads. Leave a comment or question below, and I thank you guys for watching. Now go make it a great day.